Season 2 was a rousing success for Mercedes. We clinched both the Constructors' World Championship and the Drivers' Championship for George Russell. And we are ready and prepared to defend the titles in Season 3. However, there has been some technical issues. Don't worry, it's nothing to do with the car. It's everything to do with my recording setup. Because I did a little bit of, well, I'll say tinkering for the video that you're going to see in a moment, and basically my microphone disconnected within OBS, so it didn't record any of my voice. So I'm going to have to post-commentate this episode and the next episode, which is the second race of the season. So in this episode we're going to go through pre-season, we're going to go through the calendar changes, and we're going to go through the Australian Grand Prix. We'll also go through which races have been chosen as sprint races. So I'm going to hop over and do that, and I'll see you on the other side. Here we go then, Season 3 with Mercedes. Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and as you can see, immediately getting stuck in to the races that are being removed from this season's calendar. I've decided to reduce the calendar to 18 races from the 23 that are available. I decided Monaco was going in the bin because I hate racing around there and it just makes a rubbish episode, I feel. And now we're choosing the sprint races. So gone are Belgium, Austria, Mexico and Spain. And our sprint races are Singapore, Bahrain and Canada. So that leaves the calendar, 18 races, looking something like this. It will eventually tick over to the calendar. Here we go. So the season opener is in Australia, as it was in Season 2. Then we go to Japan and Singapore for something of an Asian leg. Then we go to Baku, although that should probably have been after the Middle East quartet. We've got a triple header in the middle. And then we've got Britain, Hungary. And then we paired the two Italian races together after Zandvoort. And then we conclude the season in the Americas. So we're going to go from Canada all the way down through Miami, Texas, Vegas, and on to the season end in Sao Paulo. So 18 races, 3 sprints, slightly shorter season, and we're probably due a hefty rule change over this season. Let's have a look at the car stats for this year. They don't look very good, do they? Low speed 19th, medium speed 15th and high speed 15th. Not a good start, but we're going to throw some developments at this W16 now after the victorious W15 in 2024. Won everything basically, not all the races of course, but it did win both world championships. We do need to improve our top speed and the DRS effectiveness and the high speed for Australia. So here's what we did in terms of development: chassis, underfloor, side pods and suspension, just to try and flesh this car out and bring it forward a little bit. As you can see, I'm going through, I feel like I'm explaining it, but you know, I didn't know this at the time. My audio wasn't being recorded, so eventually we fast forward and the chassis and the side pods are the first things to be concluded. We then crack on with designing a front wing. You can just sort of see part of the philosophy I'm taking with the development. Wanted to improve the low speed because that was the weakest area of the car. Obviously the chassis and the suspension were going to improve the high speed. So that's the front wing. Here's the rear wing. Now we're throwing all of our resources for this ATR period at it. Maximum drag reduction and DRS delta. And eventually this is what the car looks like, ready for Australia. We've leapt from 15th best on high speed to 3rd best. And really I wasn't convinced we were going to get out of Q1. So here is Q1. I don't normally include Q1, but we actually got a red flag. We were 3rd and 4th fastest. And here's the red flag. Pierre Gasly, who at the time was 2nd quickest, tangling with Carlos Sainz. And eventually we were safe. So Hamilton out qualifying his new world champion teammate George Russell in the end. And in Q2, again, we were safe. We got through, although, again, I wasn't entirely certain of getting through third, and it will become eventually P7 for Lewis, because Jack Doohan, new to Alpine for this season, went quicker just there. Or, sorry, it might have even been someone else who went faster. So Hamilton wasn't as quick as Russell in Q2, but this is Q3 now, and there is Doohan going faster than Hamilton. May have misremembered that, in fact. But we're watching George Russell, the world champion. He finishes his lap and stays 4th. Hamilton doesn't improve and stays 6th. And remember, last season, Hamilton struggled in qualifying in the early races, and it really hurt him in terms of collecting those early points. So we'll start 4th and 8th on the grid. There's a wild Jack Doohan in 6th as the lead Alpine. His teammate Pierre Gasly was in the barrier. Here's our strategy then for the Australian Grand Prix. Medium, hard, soft for George Russell in 4th. Soft, hard, medium for Lewis Hamilton. I want to get him forward early. And we're onto the grid then. 5 red lights coming on. It's an all Red Bull front row. The lights are out, the race is on. And I'll just walk you through as well a couple of driver lineup changes. Charles Leclerc's in at Red Bull. Sergio Perez has gone to Ferrari. We've got Albon joining Aston Martin, replacing retiring Fernando Alonso, and he's actually just put a move on Lewis Hamilton for 8th position. We've got rookies in the form of Oliver Behrman, Teo Pourchaire and Jack Doohan. Liam Lawson is in at AlphaTauri. So there's been a few changes. Esteban Ocon is in at McLaren, and Oscar Piastri is nowhere to be seen. What is to be seen though is an overtake from George Russell on Sergio Perez to retain 4th position, and Lewis Hamilton dropped back to 9th at the start, which wasn't the start we were looking for, and it actually got worse. Not one Aston Martin going past, but also the second one, as a Lance Stroll takes 9th from Hamilton, although that was the first lap with DRS. And then on the following lap, George Russell decides to start making some moves forward. He goes around the outside of Carlos Sainz, which becomes the inside for turn 5. And that is Russell into a podium position. And I must say, I was surprised by this. I didn't expect to be in a podium position considering the car that we had. I wasn't certain that the developments we'd made had made the difference. Lap 7, and Hamilton has moved forward a couple of places here in one go, having already passed Lance Stroll earlier on. Around the outside of Doohan, who showed a little bit of rookie inexperience there, getting tucked up behind the Aston Martin, and then Hamilton pulled an outside overtake in turn 3 there, which we didn't quite get to see the end of. But that freed him up to go and attack Esteban Ocon in the lead McLaren. Lando Norris had a rotten Q2 where he got eliminated, and he's currently down in 14th. The Red Bulls scrapping away, Leclerc giving Verstappen some competition within his team, but hopefully we can develop the car and give him some competition outside of his team. And now Hamilton has caught the second Ferrari of Sergio Perez, who's not having a stellar debut. Bear in mind, a few Ferrari drivers have won on debut for the Scuderia. Kimi Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso, to name a couple. We're just going to cut to a replay here of Hamilton dive-bombing Esteban Ocon's McLaren and making the move stick. He's now just one position behind his teammate George Russell. Carlos Sainz, the smooth operator, in between them. And then we might have a decision to make, because they're actually on different strategies. And as you can see, it's one big train behind George Russell, who'd actually been defending really well once he got into 3rd. Although Sainz is looking like he's going to go past here. But the way the DRS detection zones work in Australia, we actually picked up the DRS with both cars, which allowed Hamilton to sweep by for 4th. All of a sudden, it's looking very rosy for Mercedes. We did eventually decide that having our two cars fighting each other on different strategies wasn't the right thing to do, as we see Russell moving across and blocking Sainz to allow Hamilton the space to come past. So we did ask George to let Lewis go before Lewis came in for his pit stop. here on lap 18. A 2.9 second stop. We're trying to get those pit stops a bit quicker. Will Hamilton pop out in front of this traffic? He will not. And he was just behind Charles Leclerc, who's also on a 2-stopper. George Russell now into the pit lane, also onto a set of hard tyres. Will he be able to beat this traffic out? Leclerc will undercut him in that sense, but Russell is ahead of Tsunoda and Sargent, who have bottled up Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis needs to make some progress, otherwise he might just get left behind here. We are having to conserve fuel, as you can see down at the bottom of the screen. Fast forwarding a little bit into the race, and Carlos Sainz has picked up some damage, and he's holding up Kevin Magnussen. And here's George Russell going past not just Magnussen, but also Carlos Sainz, a double overtake for the world champion. And eventually Magnussen and Hamilton both get past the Ferrari. As you'll see here, this is Hamilton making the move on Sainz. His teammate is just behind, and going very quickly, I might add, because he's on fresher tyres, and Sainz has yet to pit, I believe. There's Lando Norris, who I said at one point was 14th. He's now second, but yet to stop. Looks like he's on a 1-stopper. There is an element of 1-stop versus 2-stop to this race. Hamilton, on the 2-stop, has lost time behind Magnussen's Haas, and it's allowed Perez to close right up. And you'll see here Perez going down the outside of the Haas, and that has put Hamilton under pressure to the point where he actually lost position. And as you can see here, he's now having to chase the Ferrari, but Perez is going quickly and actually catching Russell. And within a couple of laps, he does do exactly that. And the Mexican's actually going to make a move here on the world champion in the Ferrari to say, I'm a Ferrari driver and I belong here. Look at that, round the outside. And suddenly, we're behind a McLaren and a Ferrari. Although, we might have expected to be behind the Ferrari. Now our drivers lock horns in combat again. And once again, it's probably not the ideal strategy, as they both have a look to try and pass the Ferrari that's ahead of them. And eventually I'll settle on asking George Russell not to fight his teammate, because Hamilton will be pitting earlier anyway. And so Hamilton was now free to attack the Ferrari of Perez. And he has a look around the outside here on lap 35. Looks like he's got the job done, but the way the corners work, it keeps Perez very much in touch, and he actually picks up DRS, which means he can move in front. And he picks up DRS a second time down this back straight, securing the position. But with 4 DRS zones, there's ample opportunity to come back. And that's exactly what Lewis does here. Switches to the inside, makes the move, takes the place. Job done. And does Russell follow him through? Not quite yet, but he does eventually, as I think we're about to see. Lewis Hamilton pit for the second time. Russell still just tracking the Ferrari. Hamilton comes out behind Norris, who's on a set of softs, but is doing a 1-stopper. They're going to wear out towards the end of the race. Perez and Russell still battling. We're only 11 seconds off the lead of Verstappen, as Russell now goes round the outside. And no, we don't want to choose wets, we want to choose a set of soft tyres there. And you can see Hamilton starting to make some progress after his final stop, still saving fuel, but pushing on past the McLaren of Ocon. And there's a pair of Aston Martins ahead. Russell didn't actually get past Perez, who I believe is on a 1-stopper if I remember correctly. And Russell is going to come out of the pit lane behind his teammate, but just behind Ocon, which is okay, I suppose. And he's ahead of the 2 Alpines of Doohan and Gasly. And so eventually we catch the 2 Aston Martins of Stroll and Albon. Hamilton makes the move there on Albon initially, and Russell looking like he wants to come past as well. And now the roles from earlier on have flipped. It's Hamilton on the mediums, Russell on the faster softs, but it's Hamilton with track position. And he's looking for a way past Lance Stroll, who's now, I would say, the senior driver at that team, but certainly the driver that's been there the longest. Hamilton dives to the inside, and look in the background, Russell pulling a move on his old mate Alex Albon. Hamilton doesn't complete the move on Stroll, I think because we ran out of battery. But we're going to set this up, hopefully for the pit straight, and the DRS will just fly past into turn 1, and there goes Lewis Hamilton. What about Russell? Does he make the move? Yes, he does. Cleanly around the outside. And now we have a decision to make. So on lap 47, as we see Norris battling with Leclerc, that's kind of where we're trying to get to. Hopefully we've got the pace. We're doing 19 flats and 18 nines. But we've got the drivers basically in the wrong order to maximise their tyre pace. So on lap 48, I take the decision that I don't want them holding each other up. Lewis is going to rally defend, and George is going to drive in clean air, and then we'll go through. And hopefully, the plan was for George to tow Lewis along, but the softs have so much pace, he just leaves him behind. Do also ask Lewis not to fight his teammate, so they don't lose any time. We've successfully recovered all of our fuel, and now Russell has closed in on Perez for P4 and makes a fairly straightforward overtake here with DRS, the Mexican, on a used set of mediums. And we're pressing on, we're attacking with Hamilton to try and get him to reach 5th place, where Perez is now. Not sure if he'll catch Norris. There's only 4 laps remaining, but Russell is immediately within DRS of the McLaren, who earlier was scrapping with the at least one Red Bull. But he's now going to be fending off another of the Twitch quartet in George Russell. And sadly for Lando, it is a very straightforward overtake. And what you might notice as well is that Peter Bonington talking to George Russell. For some reason, they got swapped around when I renewed the contracts. So I have gone ahead and fixed that for the next episode. Here's Lewis Hamilton, a Bono-less Lewis Hamilton at the moment, going past Sergio Perez, but he's 3 seconds behind Lando Norris, despite having much better tyres. And here we are on the final lap. He's got some DRS, but he's surely much too far back to make the move. He's closing all the time. Norris is struggling. He covers the inside bizarrely. And look at this for a send from Lewis Hamilton. Just absolutely goes for it around the outside. Almost contact through the right-hander. But Hamilton gets the job done. Verstappen wins the opening round of the season. His new teammate Leclerc 13 seconds behind. We're only 2 seconds off the trailing Red Bull. And come home for a 3rd and 4th, which, all things considered, where our car was when we first had a look at the car analysis, is a very good result. And we've got developments coming, so the car is only going to get quicker. So that's the championship standings in the drivers, because obviously we've only had 1 round. The Constructors' Championship, Red Bull, of course, lead the way, and we are 2nd. I'm sure it's going to show us in a minute. I'm not sure what I'm talking about actually in the video, but there we go. Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren 3rd, Ferrari only 8 points to kick off the season, but Alpine and Aston Martin both pick up 6, and Haas scoop the final point. AlphaTauri, Williams and Alfa Romeo didn't score. And so there is your season opener for season 3 here at Mercedes. Not quite the same vibe to the episode. I will understand if you feel that way. I feel that way too. I'm kind of annoyed about that technical fault that didn't capture the audio, because some of it I think would have been quite good, especially the late overtake on Lando Norris. A pure reaction to certain things. That's why I do live commentate for the videos and don't do post commentary, because I feel it's a more genuine reaction, and you get my true feelings about things. So Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, give it a nice big thumbs up for me. Subscribe for more F1 Manager videos. Make sure you go and check out my live stream from the weekend, which features a randomised F1 grid, and we talked about the Las Vegas Grand Prix as well. There's also going to be a live stream this Saturday evening as well at 8 o'clock. Randomised grid, F1 Manager, and we'll be talking F1 and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix qualifying session. And yeah, we'll just have a bit of a chinwag while we're there. So hopefully I'll see you there. Make sure you tune in on Friday for Season 3, Episode 2, which will be the Japanese Grand Prix. And bring your coats, because that one's a bit wet. So I'll see you then. It's goodbye for now. Thanks for watching.